In 410 AD, a barrier that had held for 8 centuries finally failed. The city gates of Rome were breached by a foreign enemy, and Alaric's forces poured into the capital. To understand how the empire became vulnerable, we must look back at how it was built. 11 centuries earlier, Rome was just a small Italic settlement by the Tiber River. Through a steady combination of military force and strategic treaties, it assimilated its neighbors and eventually dominated the Mediterranean. But the rapid influx of foreign wealth and massive new territories strained the old republic. Elite generals began bypassing the Senate, securing the loyalty of their legions with promises of plundered land and gold. This militarization of domestic politics sparked decades of destructive civil wars. Out of that chaos emerged Octavian, who assumed the title of Augustus in 27 BC. He maintained the legal facade of a restored republic, but quietly centralized military and administrative command in his own office, establishing the Principate. This new order provided the internal stability the republic's final years lacked, replacing the chaotic power struggles of the Senate with the predictability of an autocratic machine. For 2 centuries, this machine operated under ideal conditions. During the Roman warm period, stable temperatures and predictable rainfall optimized agricultural yields across Europe and North Africa, fueling economic expansion. To bind this territory together, Rome laid down over 80,000 kilometers of paved highways. This infrastructure allowed for rapid military deployment and created a highly integrated transcontinental commercial economy. That wealth funded monumental civic engineering. Aqueducts spanned entire valleys, delivering millions of gallons of fresh water daily to support booming urban populations. Protecting this prosperity was a standing professional army of roughly 300,000 men. Legions were stationed permanently along a fortified border network, acting as both combatants and engineers. The Pax Romana functioned as a high-maintenance engine, requiring a continuous flow of grain, steady tax revenue, and fresh soldiers to sustain its intricate social and economic structures. When the empire finally stopped expanding, the steady influx of war plunder dried up. Without new conquests to finance the state, the imperial treasury faced a permanent structural deficit. To pay the massive military bureaucracy, emperors resorted to a desperate accounting trick. They debased the denarius, the primary silver coin that served as the baseline of Roman economic trust. This chart shows the severity of that debasement. Successive emperors melted down the currency and mixed it with cheap copper, dropping the silver purity from 40% to less than 5%. As the currency lost its intrinsic value, the price of basic goods skyrocketed. This triggered a cyclical feedback loop. Hyperinflation crushed the purchasing power of the soldiers. The military demanded higher wages, and to afford those salaries, the state was forced to debase the currency even further. While the economy fractured, a biological shock hit. The integrated trade networks making Rome rich now facilitated the rapid spread of the Antonine Plague, an epidemic that swept through the empire during the reign of Marcus Aurelius. Millions died, heavily depleting the ranks of the military and the agricultural workforce. With a hollowed-out economy and a decimated population, the Roman state lost its structural capacity to absorb new threats. Those threats arrived as global climates shifted again. Cooler, drier conditions on the Eurasian steppe drove nomadic Huns westward, pushing fleeing Germanic tribes directly against the weakened Roman borders. On the night of December 31st, 406 AD, the physical frontier finally broke. A massive coalition of Vandals, Suebi, and Alans walked across the frozen Rhine River into Gaul. The invasion overwhelmed the understrength border garrisons. The tribes spread rapidly through the interior, permanently fracturing centralized Roman authority in the western provinces. Facing administrative collapse, the empire formally split. The eastern half, governed from Constantinople, successfully hoarded the agricultural wealth, the political stability, and most crucially, the gold reserves. This geographic division left the West sparsely populated, financially exhausted, and utterly incapable of funding an army to defend its own territory. There was no single decisive battlefield defeat that ended the Western Roman Empire. It was a slow suffocation, marked by endless civil wars and the quiet surrender of provinces to local warlords. The final moment arrived almost unnoticed in 476 AD. A teenage boy named Romulus Augustulus, the last claimant to the Western throne, was quietly deposed, dropping his imperial purple cloak for the last time. The Western Empire succumbed to a systemic collapse, where internal fragmentation and economic rot left the state unable to support its own weight. The political apparatus of the West died, but its source code survived. The Latin language, Roman legal frameworks, and administrative boundaries remained embedded in the European landscape. The enduring physical reality of Roman civic engineering became the literal foundation for medieval and modern Western societies. Historians still debate the precise mechanics of the fall. Some point to the grind of military civil wars, others to the diminishing returns on investments in social complexity, and modern science points to severe climate stress and pandemic disease. The reality is a cascading systems failure. No single factor acted alone. Each crisis amplified the next until the state could no longer recover. The collapse of Rome stands as a testament to the risks of structural vulnerability. No civilization, regardless of its technological advancement or military might, is immune to the laws of nature and the erosion of systemic overreach.